Welcome back to another edition of Millennial Tech. This is going to be a continuation for the course Millie Mini AI Bot. This is like a new lesson we're doing today. And I went ahead and kind of fixed this little part up a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I built it, but it just took a little bit more planning and engineering. So I went ahead and completed it. I'm talking about this, of course, right there. So this is a completely new part. We had just these two when I last left you, and even this one, we only had that right there. So that's kind of where we left off. So basically, I'll show you this. First thing we have to do is these holes. So if we go into a sketch, basically what you need to do is click on this right here, click Create Sketch, and that will start this sketch right here. So now we're in that sketch, and this is what we needed to do. So the first thing you'll do is you'll just create this guy right here. So make sure you go to the guidelines. So the blue ones are the guidelines, and the white ones are the actual tools, right? The actual shape builder, extrusion lines. So make sure it's on that. Hit the square, and then change this to center, and then grab that, and then instead of clicking, you just type in, right, 160. And 160, enter. So after you made the 160 by 160 guideline, then you're gonna come in here and create these circles. Just go ahead and create one here. They're all 4.2 millimeters. So you just click here, 4.2, enter, 4.2, enter, and then you're gonna grab the dimension tool, right? Click the center point, click that line, and that's 30. Grab the center point, grab that line, and that's 30 as well. So these are 30 off of the corner, and they're 4.2 millimeters. So that's it, close it, that's done. And then the next thing we need to do is this sketch right here. So you can see we have the holes, and then we need to create these 4 rectangles, and that becomes the extrusion coming out of the top. So that's the next thing we do. And this is basically these guys, I will show you how to build one. The first thing you do is this. You grab this tool. So this allows us to reference this object in the drawing, right? So select this tool right here, and then just click that edge. And that's all you need to do. And then you come over here, and you will make one of these. This could just be anywhere. It's 79. Because it's 80, but we want to have a tolerance. So I'm just adding a really small tolerance. 79 should work. So it's about a 0.5 millimeter. Actually, you know what? Let's do 78. So it's literally 1 millimeter on each side. I think that'll be cool. 78, and then this is 10. So that's the square we need, and you'll notice that it has, a lot of freedom. So what we need to do is tell it to be centered on this thing first, and then be on that line. So the way that we do this is this right here, constraint symmetric tool. So just click it, and then click this point over here, and click this point over here. So the 2 side points, and then you click the middle, right? And then there's some over constraint, so I can just click on that and then hit delete, and basically it has 1 degree of freedom, meaning I can still move it up and down, right? And then what we want to do is we want to do this guy right here, constraint coincident. But what I'll do is I'll select this first, and then I'll hold shift, and then I'll select that, and then I'll do that. So that will lock that point onto that line. And because that line isn't just a random line, it's, you know, hard coded onto that edge, that one stays there, and then this one moves. So the system automatically knows which one to move, which is great. And then we hit closed. So remember, yeah. Right? Yeah, we're good. Okay. So what I'm going to do is fix all these. I had them at 79. I think 78 would be a better tolerance. So that's 1 millimeter on each side instead of a half a millimeter on each side. So just think about it as the space in between these guys, right? If we check on that, if we go to the front, we now have a millimeter here. And honestly, the 3D printer is going to be a half millimeter, you know, over on this side and a half millimeter over on that side. So it might just line up perfectly, giving this thing 1 millimeter. But, you know, that's what we want. So we're not even here yet. I'm going to show you how to build that. But for now, why don't we just leave this, because we want to chamfer these edges at the end when we're finally done with this part. I just wanted to do all these chamfers because we are done with this part. So now I'm going to show you how to build this part, right? So basically, right now you'll have these two things built, right? We just built these. And then you'll just come over here and you'll click create body, and that will start you with this guy, right? It'll start you with this and the origin point. And then what you do is you make sure that this is double clicked and highlighted. And then you're going to grab your lower shelf right there. And then you hit the binder. And then what that does is it actually creates this guy right here. So let me turn these off. It creates that, right? The yellow binder. So that's the first thing, right? So as soon as I click on that guy, okay, so we'll turn all this off. So you have the binder, right? Nothing else. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start with this sketch. So on the binder, right, you'll click this and you'll create a sketch. And what that will give you is this one. So what we did first was we grabbed the guidelines, right? We did this outer 200 millimeter by 200 millimeter square, right? So we grabbed this square and then we said center it, and then we selected the center right there. And then when we expanded it, we did 200 by 200, right? And then that gave us this guy here. 200 by 200. Cool. And then we came in at the corner, because that's what I wanted. And then we grabbed this guy, the white one, and this is how you actually create an object. And then you just grab it on the corner, pull it out, type in 60, enter, type in 60, enter, and that will give you this square right here. So that's a real object. And that should be fully constrained because the guideline is fully constrained to the center point, which is there. And then this actual square is fully constrained because it's got that point reference, and then it's got its actual dimensions. And that's all of the, you know, parameters or whatever you want to call them. The constraints are adequately defining all of the sides and points and lengths and everything. So that's it, right? So we basically just have a square in the corner, right? So that's what you should have so far. And then what we do is we build a pad. So we took that sketch, right? And then if you have this right here selected, let's say you don't have that, you just hit pad and it makes this pad. And the default, right? This screen pops up and the default is 10. So you got to change this to 90. So that's all we did for that, right? So now you have that. Let me turn off this. So you have a pad that's 90, right? And if you need that binder, just turn it back on over here. So basically, what do we have? We have this big pad or this big volume that we can carve away from and shape into that piece, right? You can see how this whole volume eventually becomes that, right? So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we do is this guy. So we're going to click on the top. We're going to click on the top here, and we're going to create a sketch. And then that sketch is this one. So how do we create this sketch? Let me hide the binder. So this sketch was created by doing this guy right here. This is the extract lines, create external geometry, but it's like you're basically pulling lines from the edges of your object. So do that for this guy here. So click this, click that edge, and then click that edge, and it'll create these two. And then you're just going to go up here, rounded rectangle, center, and all you have to do is click there, pull it out, and the dimensions are the dimensions are 100 by 100. And I'm trying to move this. I can't move it. I don't know why it's so hard to read that, but it's 100 by 100. And then this guy over here has a radius of 10. So essentially, take this tool, make sure you're on center, start there, 100, enter, right? 100, and then 10 for the radius, right? So what that does is it gives us that nice clean line, that curve, and that clean line. Because what I found is that if I started creating internal corners, it's very hard to grab those internal corners and then create the fillet. So essentially what I wanted to do is just have something that would carve away at this, right? So now that we have that drawing, what do? We select that, and then we hit pocket. And then what did that do? That gave us this pocket. So now, this pocket, this pocket. So now this pocket comes up, and it's 85. So this pocket is 85 deep, and you can see that it just stops 5 millimeters shallow of the entire thing. So basically you're carving out this entire thing, and that creates essentially like the form of the shape. So just from that one pad going up and then that one pocket coming down, we've created like a majority of what this thing looks like, right? And then the next thing you got to do is this guy. So then we click here, right? So then we select this. Let's just pretend that doesn't exist, right? Select this, create a sketch, and then that gives us this sketch, right? So how do we get this sketch? Ooh. Okay, we don't need that. You only really need one. So basically, how do you create that line? You know that you grab that edge there, and then you click on the edge of this object right here. So I'll do one right now. Right? That's how you create that. And then you do another rounded rectangle right there. Boom. Center. Start there. Drag it out. And this one is 60. I don't know why it's not letting me drag these. Oh, there it is. Boom. Okay. So this one's 60 by 60, and then it has a 10-degree radius, right? So then you close that, and then that sketch is still visible, right? That's what's visible to you. You've just created this sketch, but you're still on this object, right? And then you grab that sketch and you click pocket again, and then it'll produce this guy right here. So it'll produce this pocket. So now that's where we're at, right? And it'll hide that sketch for you. So this pocket is only 5, and 5 should be the default. Usually it's 5 for pockets and 10 for pads. So now we have this, right? Okay, so now what's the next sketch? So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to the next pocket, right? I'm opening that up, and then I'm looking at the sketch. So this is the next sketch you need to make. So come over here to this object, click on that, click Create Sketch, and that opens this. So you don't have the green lines, right? You don't have the purple lines. So what you need to do is create that one. So grab that, and then click on that edge, and that will create the purple line right there. And then you do the same thing. Grab the rounded rectangle, make sure it's on center, and then you just click that point right there, drag it out, and then this one is 160 tall by 50 wide. So I don't know which one it's going to ask you to do first, but just make sure it's 160 here and 50 down here with a 15-degree radius. And I played around with that a lot until I got it right. So this took me like hours and hours to get right. So that's why I can't show you how to do it live, because it took me a long time to figure this out just aesthetically. So now we have that, right? And then we have that sketch. We say create a pocket, and then that will give us that, right? So that'll do that. And then we just do it again. So over here, click on that, create sketch, and that will give us this one. So it'll take us into the sketch, select this tool right here, create external geometry, select that edge, then come up here, center, grab that point, draw this green, well, it starts off white. Again, 160, 50, and then 15. And then you're done. It should be fully constrained. And then close it. And then, so that sketch is there. And then when you have this sketch selected, you can click Pocket, and then it'll create that, right? So these are the steps. I'm just showing you like sequentially how I did it. And then let's figure out, oh, fillet. So now I created the first fillet. So we just took this basic edge right here, select it, and select this. Or you can select the fillet tool. Oh. Yeah. So you can select, let's just, okay, so yeah, you're on here. You'll select this tool, and then you'll select that guy. And then that fillet comes up, and it says right here, it'll just be that one edge that was right here. And then it'll say, how much do you want? You just put 15, hit OK, and that's done. So now this is the part, right? We still have our guy underneath, lower shelf. We can turn both of these back on, right? So now, actually, you know what? It's a little distracting. So now we have the part, and we have that fillet done. And then we need to create this guy. So this is the first set of holes. So what I did for this is select that, select Create Sketch, and that'll open this sketch here. So the first thing you do is grab these guys and select that edge and select that edge, right? You can see that there's a purple line drawn from here to here, and all you're doing is grabbing this tool and you're selecting this edge right here on the top, right? So that makes a purple line. And then you change this to the guidelines, you change this to regular rectangle, and then you actually hover over here, and there's a midpoint of the purple line. So what you're doing is you're snapping onto the midpoint of that purple line, and you're dragging out a square to the midpoint of this purple line over here, which is that external geometry that was derived from that edge, right? And that gives you this nice square. And then you don't have to guess about how to get there and how to get back. It's just the square. Even if you have this as extra, this is what we wanted in here. Cool? So then we switch back to the white tools, and then we grab right here this circle, and then you'll just snap onto the corner there. As soon as it has the X, look for that X, and then drag it out. And these are actually 5. So these are really 5. Let me, yeah, here we go. So these are all 5 millimeters, because these are just the holes that the 3 millimeter, the M3 bolt is going to go through. So just think of it that way, right? So we have 2 different sizes. One of them is 5, and that's what the M3 goes all the way through. And then the other one is 4.2, and that's what the threaded inserts go into. So whenever you're creating a threaded insert, it's 4.2, and whenever you're creating a general hole, it's 5. Cool. So then create 2 more. Select here, drag it out, 5, right? And then this should be, oh, I guess that snapped onto the center. So make sure it's over here somewhere where it's not on the center. You know, if I did it over here, then it should be able to move. That should be able to move on the line, but not anywhere else. So make sure it's on the line. And then you grab the dimension tool, and you click this, and you click this line, and then you set that to 10, right? But I'm not going to do that. So boom. So you can see that it's 10 right here. So basically from this edge, this circle right here is 10 degrees. The center of it is 10 millimeters from there. So that's what you have to establish, is just create this distance and create that distance and make sure those circles are on the lines, and then you're done, right? Close, fully constrained. Now you have 3 circles here, and what you created was that. So you have this sketch, right? Before that exists, you have the sketch, you click pocket, and then boom, it makes that pocket. So now we have that pocket here, and then we can create the next thing. So what is the next thing? Well, it's actually this fillet down here. So before I did this part up here, I actually just filleted these edges. So if we look at that, all you have to do is click the fillet right here, and then click that edge and that edge. And what fillet did we give it? 5 millimeters. So make sure you give it a 5 millimeter fillet, and then click OK. So that's done. And then we created the first pad up here. So then we got to work up here. So that's all done down at the bottom. And then we move up here to the top. So that right there came into being, this pad, through this sketch right here. So that's all that is. That's the next step, is just to create a square up here. So how did we do that? We selected this face, so we're here. We select that face and then create a sketch. And that got us here. So the first part of this sketch, right, is again clicking this tool and deriving this line right here, and this one right here. And what that gives you is these endpoints right there. So you have this purple line here, and you have the purple line here, and then you just go over here, select that, start there, and end there. And you don't even have to enter the dimensions because it knows exactly what that is. It should be fully constrained, and then you hit close. And what that gives you is, let's look at that. That gives you this, right? So we just have that little square, and then when that's selected, hit pad. But when you first do it, it'll come in like that. So that's how pads come in, right? It's building up, but what you really want is reversed. So you need to click reversed and make sure it's 10 millimeters, and then it'll go down. So that pad is right there. That's okay. And then it'll hide that for you. And then this is what you're left with. So basically we have a pad coming down from the top 10. And we want to keep it 10 because we're going to put threaded inserts in some of these, and we want to make sure that they're all the same. So yeah, that's basically it. So then we created this guy. This is the next sketch we did. So if you're on here, just select that. Turn that off for you. Just select this face now, create a sketch, and that gives us this sketch, right? So what is this one? This is the same thing, right? Grab this edge tool, select this one, select that one, and then we are going to come up here, grab that guy, just a single point, and just drag it from that point to that point. So click there to start the line and click there to end the line, and that's it. That's all you need. And then we're gonna draw the circle in the middle. So then switch this back to the white one, and then grab the circle tool and make sure it's on the center point. Click it there, drag it out, and then just type in 12. So that's a 12 millimeter circle right in the center, and that's it. And then that becomes a pad. So once you close the drawing, all you have to do is select it, pad, and that gives us that pad right there. So then this little guy comes out of the top. And then this is going to be used to kind of secure everything. So that's the first thing we do. And that pad is 4 millimeters tall. So make the pad 4 millimeters, and then we're done. And then this guy is the next sketch. That's going to be the pocket. So then what you're going to do is select that guy, create a sketch, and that will open this sketch. So we do the same thing. We grab this edge, grab that edge, and then stop there. And then come over here, grab this circle, just drop it anywhere right here. It doesn't really matter. Just draw a circle and make sure that it's 5.8. So the 5.8 is actually for the M4 threaded inserts. So just write that down somewhere. You should write down all of the holes and all the threaded insert sizes. So this is 5.8. And then, so you'll just have a circle floating in this space. And what you want to do is grab the constraint tool, click on this, and then click on that right there. And then click on that and type in 8 millimeters. So basically, this constraint is 8 millimeters. You can see that right there. And then this constraint is 8 millimeters right there. So essentially, it's just floating in space, but it's floating 8 millimeters out and 8 millimeters out. So that's all you need to do for that. That would be fully constrained. Close it. Then you have that sketch. You click pocket, and then that gives us this one right here. It's 10. Just hit OK, and you're off to the races. And then we're going to do the fillets. So this is basically what you should have done so far. So this edge goes first, right? So this edge right here, if you click fillet, click that edge, that gives us that right there. And you just have to make sure it's 9 millimeters. Okay. And then we did the outer chamfer first. So you can see that this chamfer is all of these edges. So if we do this one, we just click the chamfer tool, right? We're right here. Click the chamfer tool. Oh, I can't do that. Yeah, no, I can't do it. So click the chamfer tool and then click on all these edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it'll give you something like that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you just change that to 2 and hit OK. So that basically adds that chamfer along there. And then we just did the inside. So the only one you skip, in my opinion right now, is that line right there. You don't chamfer that because these are continuous. If we turn that on, that to me, you don't want to chamfer that edge because that's a continuous edge. Just like the front is a continuous edge, right? So we'll chamfer these next, but I want to be more done with this part. So that's basically it. If you look at this chamfer here, it's all of these edges. So you're gonna come in here, and this is what it's gonna look like. You're gonna select this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Select, don't select that, and then continue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Don't select that one right there, right? So this one and this one are the ones you do not chamfer, and then hit OK, and make sure that this is 1.5, and then boom, that's what you'll get, and then the part's done. So this part is effectively finished right now, right? And it's sitting on that and that. So you should have, at this stage in the video, you should have this part finished, and you should have this part modified to this level. And that's basically where we're going to stop today. The next video is going to be all about the assembly process, and basically the next phase of this, let me just close all these. The next phase of this is to not think about this thing as like just all of these parts or just all of these bodies, but we're going to go, we're going to get assembly 4. I'm going to show you how to install that, and then we're going to work with assembly 4 to actually create new parts. And then we're going to basically, like, a part is like a shell that wraps a body. So just think about this like as this is what the computer needs to memorize or to use in order to assemble things. We're going to take this body, right? We're going to take this body, and we're going to take this body, and we're going to actually just put them inside of parts. And all that means is we're going to select that guy, right? And we're going to name this lower post part, right? So lower post part, and we just drag that inside there. So right there, lower post part. We're going to talk about this in the next lesson, and then we're going to talk about how to assemble these. But basically what we're going to do is change this origin. I'll just give you a little sneak peek. We're going to change this origin to right here. That's it. So that becomes basically it's a local coordinate system origin. It's going to be on the bottom right there. So let's save that for the next video, and then we're going to build the entire assembly. So stay tuned for that.